So I'm trying to demonstrate why we only choose one dependent variable for our research investigations, and the trouble that you get into when you try and make it too complicated when you've only got 2,000 words. Now, I've just grabbed this one from a student because it's publicly available and it's an ex-student from a few years ago. And they have a reasonable rationale. It looks a little bit rushed, but it's quite sufficient. And then the question is, do microplastics created from PET bottles increase ocean acidification due to CO2 emissions during transportation, in brackets, which probably saves her, and affect microcosmos it's a snail. Probably shouldn't give the common name of the snail and that in brackets because no one knows what that is. In terms of heavy metals bioaccumulation, microplastics, and thus should be replaced by polylactic acids. And so just trying to just deal with one of these things is probably a little too much. So it's probably not even specific enough just to take two things here, let alone there's like 5 things in here. That's a mess. And I just gave up after the very first one, basically. And I thought, this will just go on forever. I can't do this. So I basically just looked at the first study, and it didn't make much sense because I don't know if this is per gram and whether it really is just transportation or not. It seems rather crazy because the amount of CO2 given off, well, okay, maybe it's 3,000 tonnes, but maybe you're producing 30,000 tonnes of plastic, and maybe this is only 0.97 tonnes of carbon dioxide produced, but you're only producing 0.1, so PLA is way, way worse. So that's the obvious confusion to start with. So I go to the article itself, and I've gone through the whole thing, and yeah, that's all they do. They just assess from their local perspective. And by the way, they make the corn just comes from next door, and then they get the oil. These are American. This is Berkeley, and then the oil they get all the way from the Middle East, which is a little crazy. And then the whole study just reeks of. I actually think our eyes read better than that. So I just looked into that and what the heck this is. And the student here says it's from a journal, which it isn't. It says they're a PhD. Ex-PhD student somewhere here, and it's from a journal. And because there's a drastic difference, it doesn't matter that there's all these other problems, which I haven't even gone into yet. And if you look at the reference, it's not a journal reference, Shen. And then if I go and look up this person, they're not a PhD. They only recently got a data processing degree. And then if you go to their website, where it's from, it's marked off as classes as if that's just a student assignment. So they're an undergraduate student assignment. And so that's all, that's a terrible source. And that is a key source. It's a fundamental link, and it's kind of trash, okay? And I can't get past that because there's just so many things to deal with to just get to that. So I think perhaps that this is about 3 or 4 different, just stopping there. So just stopping microplastics here. Maybe you could get 3 or 4 different specific questions still, or just do one of the, like this. It's just so broad, to be honest. So it seems like they didn't look at the masses produced of the thing. So I'm just like, this would itself trying to work out exactly what the production is should be 3 data sets. So you only do one dependent variable, 3 data sets, and that's all you can do. You really can't do much more than that. I'm just guessing at numbers here. So these are from different years. So maybe 0.2 megatons from PLA and 16 megatons. So there's 80 times more volume. So you need to times that figure by 80. And then, oh my goodness, they didn't consider anything but they didn't consider the process of how to make it, which they alluded to in the thing. But if you look around, almost, it gets pretty high. That the mass of the PLA, the corn that goes into it to make the corn, the CO2 produced is about almost like it's up to 80%, 60 at the very lowest number. So you need to double whatever the total mass of that plastic is and add that to this real CO2 produced. And then you need to be realistic about these distances that it really took, travelled all the way from the Middle East where the corn was just grown next door. So realistically, America produces its own oil and it could have got the oil from next door as well, which basically means that there is no difference in carbon production, and so they're completely equal. So this is 100% reliant on making sure you get the oil from other side of the world and the corn from local rather than someone else. You could be anywhere. You can get the corn from any country and the oil from any country. So it's sort of invalid, and certainly needs a lot more looking at. And so taking all those factors into account, 80 times, it's possible, even travelling all the other way around the world, that the carbon produced is still less than the corn produced next door. And so you can see we've got huge issues there. And that would be an assignment in itself to try and prove that. And probably I would knock it down even more than that. So you can see that would go way over 2,000 words, and you just need to deal with that. And I hope that proves that you just can't do more than one dependent variable. It just goes nuts. You're just making these huge jumps and assumptions and not really understanding anything or properly analysing anything. And this is after I've looked at quite a few 2020s that have an A versus B, or not even an A versus B, just an A with several different variables. You just can't do a proper job with it and properly analyse it. And I hope that makes sense. Okay, bye-bye.